Welcome back to another automation breakdown where we break down automated solutions for your business needs. I'm your host, Chris. Today, I will be walking through how to create a visualization inside of an email, all without using Power BI. Just like this, email comes in. This is our active employee roster sorted out by departments, and each one of these bars has our total number of employees. All of this is done with Power Automate using our active employee roster, which I had created in this video right here. But let's just say I decided to sort this by our departments, come over and delete out a bunch of our HR team.
Bye, Felicia.
And as you see another email arriving here, you'll see that our HR department has 22 employees from the original 27. And of course, they got deleted out because they didn't hit the like button. That's just really to show you how dynamic this picture really is. And so if that all sounds good, let's hop into Power Automate. From the homepage, let's go over to Create, and I'm going to use Instant Cloud Flow and Manual Trigger. You can definitely use a scheduled cloud flow. That way it's a lot more automated, maybe once a month or once a week type of report. I'm going to give our flow a name and let's hit the create button. All right, the first action we need to do after our trigger is we need to get our items from that SharePoint list. With this done, I now have our active employee roster. I'm going over to settings, turning on pagination, and I'm bumping up the threshold to 100,000. Now, when I save this flow, you'll see your flow is saved with a warning, get items does not have a limiting folder parameter. This isn't anything wrong or anything bad with your flow, but it's just saying that there's nothing to limit the data that's coming into that get items action. And to kind of get around that, I kind of cheat the system by adding in the filter query, adding in title is not equal to blank. For me, my title column is my employee ID column. So there should never be an instance where there's a blank employee ID. So I can say that this is always going to be true and always going to show me the entire employee roster. Now, if I go to save it, you'll see that everything else just flows just right. And we get the green banner, your flow is ready to go. Next step, I will add in my next action, which is a compose. I will retitle this compose to length, and inside the inputs, I will add in the expression, the length, go over to my dynamic content, and the body slash values of the get items action, add. When I run the flow, the length gives us how many items are inside the get items property. And in this case, it is 113 employees. Now, for this visualization, these are the department names. So I'm going to use that and get a unique list of all of the department names. In Power Automate, our next action will be under Data Operations, Select. We are going to add in from our dynamic content, get items, body slash value, go over to text mode, and I'm going to add in the department column. Now we have just our department column. But by doing this again, we've spliced out just the department columns, but there's multiple operations, multiple business operations. Let's add in one more compose after this, and this will be our unique department list. Inside the inputs, I will go over to our expressions, and this will be union, go over to dynamic contents, and the outputs of the select, comma, the outputs of the select, and add. Now, from our select action, again, we have the multiple operations, multiple business operations. But inside of our unique department list, the raw outputs now has, again, just the unique departments that we are going to work with. Okay, next step will be to add in our next action, which we are going to initialize a variable. I'm going to call this one VarAgg for var aggregate. We're going to get a lot more of the aggregates from the departments and then insert those aggregates into our visualization. This will be an array variable, and currently the value will be blank. Next step is an apply to each. Inside of this apply to each, I'm going to add in our unique department list. We're going to go line by line through each of these departments. Now Power Automate is going to start looping through each one of the line items and again, start adding them all to this visualization. The first action within this apply to each, let's get in a filter array. From this will actually be from our get items body slash value, once again. And what we're going to do is go over to our dynamic content, scroll down until you find departments, and we are filtering for the department is equal to the current item inside of this apply to each. So now we're going through the unique departments and just getting all of that information within each of those departments. Our next action after this filter array is we are going to append to array variable. Right here, append to array variable, add this action. We are going to do the drop down for the name and add in our previously made variable VarAgg. What we're going to do is add in a curly bracket. Our first column inside of this array variable will be departments, and I'm going to add in the current item, comma, and our next column name will be count. And what we're going to do is, just like we used before, get the length of go to dynamic content, our filter array, the body, add. And let's go ahead and close out the curly brackets. You see, when I go to test out our flow in the current condition, this append to array variable, we're on item number 1 of 5. And you'll see the name of this is VarAgg, the type is var array, and within that array, department operations count of 28. The next item, if we go to the raw outputs, you'll see business operations 27, and skipping to the very end, executives headcount of 1, engineering headcount of 30, HR headcount of 27, so on and so forth. To truly make this visualization, we need to find the largest departments, and we will make the visualization large enough to that department size. To find the maximum count, let's go into an action outside of our apply to each, and we are going to select just the items within the count column. The from, this will be from our VarAgg. Inside of the text mode, I will add in an expression, item, question mark, square bracket, single quotes, and this will be count, all lowercase. And it's all lowercase because that is the name of the column we are trying to extract information from. After this select action, I will add in another compose action. Another one. Going over to our expressions, I will add in max dynamic content and select one output. Add. I'm going to retitle the compose to max count, and we're going to add in two open variables. Add in initialize variable, and the variable is var SVG bars. We're adding in the file type is called SVG and adding in those specific bars.
A bar. Bar. It's this bar.
The type will be a string and the value currently it'll be open. The next action we are going to do is initialize one more variable, and I'm going to title this one var row. This will be an integer and the value currently sits at 0. If you've kept up to this point in the video, what comes next is we are going to really start building in those visualizations. The next action after our two initializing variables, we are going to add in another apply to each. Another one. And within this apply to each, the output from previous steps will be our VarAgg. So far, we've mapped out the maximum size of this visualization. Now we need to add in how long are each one of these bars. And then we need to add in how much space is in between each one of these items. How much space is between operations to business operations to human resources, and really start building it almost like a grid. So we're going to need our y-axis of this grid, and then again, what is that width of each bar? So what we're going to do is add in our next step, compose. I'm going to retitle this to our y-axis, and inside of this input, I will add in the expression. We're going to multiply under our dynamic content our var row, comma, by 26 pixels in between each one. On top of that, I'm going to add 60 plus this, and let's go ahead and smash the add button like you're going to smash the like button. The next action we're going to do is another compose. I'm retitling this to bar width, and inside of the inputs, go over to our expressions and let's write in multiply the items property. In single quotes, this is our apply to each one, question mark, and from our count column, comma, and 420. All of this I am going to divide, put in the other parentheses at the very end of this, but we're going to divide that by our max count. All of this we are going to wrap inside of an integer just to make sure all of this is captured as an integer and add. The next action, we're going to append to string variable. And this one is going to come from our SVG bars. This will be a lot more of our HTML. So I'm adding in our text, our X is equal to 20, and our Y, go over to our dynamic content, and this will be our y-axis, all of that wrapped inside of double quotes. Now, because we're trying to make this image dynamic, there's only so much real estate that each one of these titles have. So what happens if the department name exceeds the amount of real estate that we've already given it? To compensate for this, I'm going to add in a function. We are going to get the coalesce of the items from the apply to each one and the departments, comma, and if we don't get anything at all, we're going to say unknown. However, that's just if this department name is blank. So what we're going to do is if the greater of the length of the trim of all of this, if all of this is greater than 18, which 18 pixels, that's the allotted real estate that we're giving for that department name. If that's true, we're going to add in the substring of the trim of the string of the coalesce of the items of the departments. I am doing my best to explain this, but I think at the end of the day, just copy what I write. And if it's false, we are going to trim down the department name, otherwise have unknown. And let's close out our parentheses. Continuing this HTML, I will close out the text property. Now we're going to start building in our X and Y axis. So our X will be 180 and our Y, let's go into our expressions. And this will be subtracting the outputs of our Y axis, comma, by 12. Add in our double quotes around this expression. The width is going to be the bar width. Our height is 14 and our Rx is 3. Adding in our next line, the text, the X will be equal to, we're going to add 190, comma, to the outputs of our width property. And the Y, this will be our Y axis. Add in the font size. On our next line, I will add in items, apply to each one, and this will come from the count column. Add that in, and finally, let's close out our text. That was the reason I've been hesitant to make this video this whole time. Hopefully my explanation was decent, but hopefully you paused the video. If not, let me know in the comments. And then our final action inside of this apply to each one, we are going to increment our variable. The name is from our var rows, and we are going to add in 1 every single loop that this apply to each one goes through. Outside of this apply to each, let's add in our next action, another compose,
Another one.
which I'm retitling to converted date, adding in an expression. We are going to format a date time, and we're going to convert the time zone of our universal time clock now, comma, from universal time clock to Pacific Standard Time. Of course, you can change that wherever you live. And we want this in the formatted date of month dash day slash year. Let's start to complete this flow, and I will add in another compose action. This will be our SVG file in its fullest extent. I'm going to start off with the normal coding of an SVG file. Not that you need to know how to code an SVG, but just, look at what you're seeing on my screen and copy it.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Then we're going to add in the expression, the length of our inside of dynamic content, our VarAgg. We're going to take that and multiply it by 26. And then we're going to add 90 to what we just created and our parentheses and add. Complete the double quotes and close it out. On our next line, I'm adding in more components. Now, how it says active employees, this is where we are going to add in your title to this visualization. I'll say active employees and close out the text. On the next line, I will add in our text component, and this component will be the date stamp, in this case, the 420 of 2026. As of going to our dynamic content, our converted date, we'll close out that text property, going over to our dynamic content, and then adding in our var SVG bars. And finally, let's close out this SVG file. Our next action for our compose, we will add in,
Another one.
this will be our file name of our SVG file. We'll say SVG file underscore employee roster underscore, just add in our converted date time dot SVG. Very important that your file has the .svg file type. What we've created, this is our file name and this is our file content. So our next action, let's create this file. Under the OneDrive for Business, create file, I'm going to add in a file location. I have a folder that everything gets deleted out. Add in our file name from our file name compose. And then our file content, this will be from that SVG pool. We're almost done. I swear there's only a couple more topics that we are going to get through. Next, we're going to convert this file because an email cannot work with this SVG file. I just did that to create this dynamic visualization. The file, going over to our dynamic content, from create file, we're going to snag in the ID of the file it just created. And our target type, this will actually be a JPEG. With only 2 more composes to create, I will add in,
Another one.
I'm going to retitle this to base 64, and inside of our inputs, I will add in the expression data URI, and we are going to find the body of the convert file, which is called file content. And our final compose action, let's add in, this will be our image in HTML. The image source between our 2 double quotes, this will be our base 64. And I'm going to add in an alternative text, which will be our active employee roster chart by departments. Our width will be 100%. The style will display the block, the width 100%, max width of 100%. The height will be auto, borders will be 1 pixel, and the border radius of 8 pixels. And let's finally close this out. Now the moment you've all been waiting for.
Yes! Yes! Come to Papa!
Under Office 365 Outlook, let's send an email. Adding in the title, Active Employee Roster Visualization, going over to my email, I'm going to switch over to the code view, and I'm going to just say, please see below. And on the next line, I will add in the image in HTML and save. Let me go ahead and manually test it. We will be using SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, and Office 365 Outlook. Here is our newest email, and you see right here, we have our HR, our business operations, engineering, all of that inside of a dynamically created visualization. Of course, you can always change out the manually trigger a flow for a scheduled flow. That way, again, it's more on a cadence. It's coming a weekly or monthly type of report. And of course, there's a lot more that Power BI can do in the first place. So I'm not going to downgrade Power BI. It's a lot more powerful. But when you're trying to send out reports to, I don't know, department managers, maybe your execs to show headcount or whatever you're trying to make that visualization for, this is a very easy way to get a good cadence on whatever that report is. Let me know what you think down in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.